Chapter 2042. After getting the antidote, Yiqing Luo didn't immediately let Yan Xiaoyi consume it. She used the 100-pill refining technique to filter the ingredients of the antidote. After confirming that the antidote did not contain any ingredients that could harm her life, she placed the antidote into the profound phoenix ring, although she filtered it again. But in the end, he still had to let the ghost doctor personally confirm it. After all, the 100 refinement pill was just a secret manual. He didn't know how to be flexible. Better safe than sorry. As it concerned Yan Xiaoyi's life, Yiqing Luo could not take any risks. After getting the antidote, Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she looked at Dao Yegan with a smile which didn't look like a smile. She looked at Dao Yegan, whose face was filled with anger but didn't dare to flare up, as she laughed softly. Seeing that you're sensible enough to hand over the antidote, tell me, should I fulfill your reputation and let Xian take your life? Dao Yegan shuddered as he abruptly raised his head and stared at Yiqing Luo, his eyes filled with terror. In the end, he was still afraid of death. Admiring Island Yiqian's green and white complexion, Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards contemptuously, as she gave an extremely satisfied smile. Then I'll spare your lowly life. I'll also send my regards to the island master. Dao Yeqian clenched his fists tightly as his body tensed up, as if he was trying to suppress his anger. But even if he was enraged by Yiqing Luo's ridicule, he still did not speak. Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly. She really thought that Dao Yegan was very capable. He was just a weakling who was outwardly strong but inwardly weak. Yiqing Luo yawned lazily. On the importance of hugging onto a thick thigh. This was an example. With the antidote in hand, the battle was over. Yiqing Luo and the others had no intention to continue staying. After all, everyone was already exhausted from the continuous battle. The new monarch Lung Feng called out to the royal army as well as the citizens who had volunteered to detain those small-sized powerhouses. The Yan family did not give up and kept calling Yan Xiaoyi's name. Earlier, the overlord had personally admitted that Yan Xiaoyi was Yiqing Luo's maiden's family, and in the overlord's heart, that was a pivotal position. As long as Yan Xiaoyi was willing to save them, get in touch with Yan Xiaoyi, then they would be able to get close to His Majesty. The Yan family scolded Yan Zhenfei and kept badmouthing Yan Xiaoyi, trying to recall Yan Xiaoyi's longing for kinship. However, until they were dragged away by the royal army, Yan Xiaoyi didn't even look at them. Xiao Jin looked at the exhausted woman in his arms and asked in a low voice with heartache, "Are you tired? It's too noisy here. I'll bring you back to the old mansion to rest. When the ghost doctor rushes back, you'll be able to recover." Yan Xiaoyi nodded lightly and leaned on Xiao Jin's shoulder. She closed her eyes tiredly. He was indeed very tired. It wasn't just physical exhaustion. There was also the exhaustion of his heart. Sure enough, without hope, one wouldn't be so sad. She had long been disappointed in the Yan family. Therefore, when she saw the hysterical Yan family trying to please her and beg her, that was why he could be so calm. But the human heart was made of flesh. He would be lying if he said he wasn't sad. But such sadness and exhaustion, in the end, it would disappear with the passage of time. If he softened his heart and stayed in the Yan family, the one who got hurt in the end would definitely be her. Relatives, she only needed Devil Class, the world group, and everyone. That was enough. The public square became orderly. Yiqing Luo and the others were sent off under the citizens' respectful and revering gazes, as they headed towards the direction of the old mansion. The bunch of people from Three Springs sect looked at each other in dismay and decisively chose to follow Yiqing Luo and the others. Chapter 2043. Yiqing Luo realized that there were hundreds of people dressed in Three Springs sect's uniform following behind. She had no choice but to send them back to Three Springs sect to tidy up the mess that Yiqing Qian and Yi Fengru had created. After things had settled down, she would hold the Three Springs sect's patriarch succession ceremony. The hundreds of people from Three Springs sect were completely submissive towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's command made them respond in unison, yes. After that, the hundreds of them turned around and rushed towards the direction of Three Springs sect. Just at this moment, a sharp voice was heard, "Who dares to leave?" That voice? Yiqing Luo paused and looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw Yi Fengru holding a dagger against Nangong Lin's neck. His usually elegant face was now filled with madness and malevolence. He restrained Nangong Lin and bellowed, "I'm the patriarch of Three Springs sect. I'm the patriarch. You bunch of traitors of Three Springs sect. Are you trying to betray Three Springs sect?" The hundreds of people from Three Springs sect were stunned by Yi Fengru's malevolent expression. In their hearts, Yi Fengru had always been a good young master. He was in charge of all the expenses of Three Springs sect, exhausting his own ability to contribute silently for Three Springs sect. But what was it that made their gentle and refined second young master turn into such a state? Power? Ambition? Or was he just like that? Yi Fengru. Nangong Firen looked at him in disbelief. Do you know what you're doing? Do you know who you're pointing your dagger at? Yi Fengru stared fiercely at Nangong Firen. If you still treat me as your brother, go and kill Yi Qingluo. Avenge Xianxian. Yi Fengru. Have you lost your mind? Nangong Firen gritted his teeth in anger. He had never hated Zi Qianxian's existence as much as now. Yi Fengru sneered, I'm not crazy, I'm clear-headed. Nangong Firen, you like Yi Qingluo so you won't feel heartache for Qianxian dying in her hands. But I feel heartache. Qianxian was such a good lady and she died just like that. She died without a complete corpse. As he spoke, Yi Fengru's voice became as terrifying as a devil's. He increased the strength in his hand and said, I lost my beloved woman. Don't you feel bad for Nangong Lin? Fine. I'll kill her. I'll kill her and let you have a taste of what it feels like to lose someone you value. Yi Fengru. Brother Ru. Nangong Lin felt a sharp pain in her neck, and her eyes were filled with astonishment. She could feel a warm liquid seeping out of her neck. That pain was nothing compared to the pain in her heart. Nangong Lin couldn't help but shed tears. Big brother Ru, you promised me that you'd forget about big sister Qianxian? As long as I cooperate with you and help you escape, you'll be with me? What? Why are you treating me like this? Nangong Lin felt as though her heart was being torn apart. It was precisely because she loved Yi Fengru. Therefore, she knew that her brother would be angry. Without hesitation, she chose to use herself as a hostage to help Yi Fengru escape. But Yi Fengru wanted to kill her. Nangong Lin wasn't stupid. She could feel the biting cold murderous intent from Yi Fengru. He really wanted to kill her. Lin, don't you like me very much? So now, in order to let your brother Ru be happy for brother Ru to die, isn't that good? Yi Fengru listened to Nangong Lin's broken sobs as he leaned close to her ear and laughed maniacally. Chapter 2044. Yi Fengru. You bastard. Nangong Firen's chest heaved with anger. His eyes turned scarlet, but he did not dare to act rashly. He was afraid that he would move. Yi Fengru would really kill Nangong Lin in the heat of the moment. Even Nangong Firen, who had known Yi Fengru for several years, had never seen Yi Fengru in such a sick state. Bastard. You're the one who doesn't care about Qianxian. Don't tell me you're not a bastard? Yi Fengru laughed instead of getting angry. Zi Qianxian colluded with the dark forces, that's what she deserved. Even if she didn't die, my killing god mercenary group will not tolerate her. Nangong Firen frowned and said, Ru, for the sake of our many years of life and death together, let Lin go. I won't hold this against you. Aha. Between us, from the moment you fell in love with Yi Qingluo, there's no more brotherhood to speak of. Yi Fengru roared malevolently, the dagger in his hand increased the strength. Nangong Lin screamed in pain and struggled to break free. Nangong Firen's eyes were bloodshot and his body was tense. Looking at the dagger, he really didn't hesitate to slash his sister's neck. Nangong Firen could no longer hold back and lunged forward. Boom. Two voices sounded at the same time. The sound of something falling to the ground was heard. It was the sound of the man screaming in pain again. Nangong Firen dashed forward and caught Nangong Lin, who was weak and feeble, in his arms. His hands were trembling slightly. Lin? Nangong Firen's voice was trembling. Nangong Lin, who had lost too much blood, blinked her eyelashes weakly. She stared at Nangong Firen's face with unfocused eyes. After a long while, he finally managed to get it into focus. Brother. Nangong Lin's voice was weak as she panted heavily. I'm sorry. Nangong Firen quickly tore off his clothes and covered her neck. Don't talk, Lin. I will save you. I will definitely save you. Nangong Lin blinked her eyes weakly. She parted her lips slightly and breathed out silently. However, he could not utter a single word. It was only when death arrived that Nangong Lin realized how foolish she had been. Only by experiencing pain would one know how to grow. She bitterly loved a man who didn't love her back. She even made her brother sad for her. She was really a failure of a sister. If there was a next life, she still wanted to be her brother's sister. But next time she would be the one to love him. His consciousness gradually dissipated. Nangong Lin felt as light as a feather. Was his soul about to leave his body? She could still vaguely hear her brother shouting her name at the top of his lungs. She wanted to laugh and reassure her brother. But I really don't have any strength left. Tiske. Isn't it just a stab? Why do you have to make it seem like a drama? Suddenly, a speechless and impatient voice sounded. Nangong Lin felt as if something was stuffed into her mouth. Then his light body was suddenly pulled down. His consciousness gradually became clear. Then he felt a sharp pain in his neck. She let out a blood-curdling scream. His voice was a little hoarse, but it wasn't as weak as before. Nangong Firen tightened his grip and looked at Nangong Lin with joy. Linner? Look at your brother, look at your brother. Nangong Lin's eyes met Nangong Firen's. She opened her mouth and wanted to speak. She felt another sharp pain in her neck. That irritating and impatient voice sounded again. If you don't want your throat to be damaged, you'd better shut up. Nangong Lin held her breath. Through Nangong Firen's shoulder, she saw a young girl dressed in red crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at her with an impatient expression. Star. Chapter 2045. Was Yiqing Luo? It was actually Yiqing Luo? Nangong Lin's eyes widened as she looked at Yiqing Luo in shock. Why did Yiqing Luo come out to save her? Obviously. She had also done many overboard things to Yiqing Luo. He had always treated Yiqing Luo as a thorn in his side. Why did Yiqing Luo save her at this moment? Don't look at me with such loving eyes. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes at Nangong Lin. Whether you're dead or alive, I really don't care, but I don't want my second brother who betrayed Three Springs sect to have his way. You. Nangong Lin's face turned pale. She knew that this woman was not a kind person. Nangong Firen immediately covered Nangong Lin's mouth. Lin, don't talk. Big brother will take you back to the Nangong family. The doctor will heal your injuries. Nangong Lin's mouth moved, but she stopped because of the sharp pain in her throat. After Nangong Firen comforted his younger sister, he carried Nangong Lin in his arms and stood up. He looked at Yiqing Luo. There wasn't the slightest bit of unnecessary emotion in his eyes. Her eyes were clear and filled with gratitude. Miss Yiqing Luo, no matter what the reason was for you to lend a helping hand, I only know that you've saved my sister and also stopped Ru from doing something that he would definitely regret for the rest of his life. Nangong Firen's voice was clear and gentle. This kindness, the Nangong family will always remember it in our hearts. In future, if Miss Yiqing Luo needs any help, I will represent the Nangong family to make a promise that no matter if we have to climb a mountain of swords or descend into a sea of flames, the Nangong family will not hesitate. As soon as he finished speaking, Nangong Firen fell to his knees. Brother? Nangong Lin could not help but spit out a word. Her eyes were filled with shock. For as long as she could remember, her brother had always been proud. Her brother was the most talented child in the Nangong family, an existence that everyone in the Nangong family revolved around. It could be said that she had never seen her brother suffer any grievances or pain. But today her brother had knelt before a 15-year-old girl. This girl was also a girl that she had once held in extreme disdain. Even now she still couldn't like that girl. However, she suddenly understood something. Why was her brother obviously in love with Yiqing Luo? But he had been hiding the reason for his feelings. Such an insolent and unbridled girl. How could her brother control it? The god-slaying mercenary group's mercenaries who had followed Nangong Firen here, saw Nangong Firen kneeling. He immediately followed Nangong Firen and knelt down in Yiqing Luo's direction. As long as Miss Yi needs help, the god-killing mercenary group will not hesitate. This scene left the surrounding factions and countless commoners dumbfounded. Nangong family. It was a clan that was equally as famous as the four great profounder clans. In particular, Nangong Firen had appeared in this generation, making the Nangong family even more powerful. In the West Continent, even the four great profounder clans had to give the Nangong clan some face. Since the Nangong clan was so powerful, why didn't the Nangong clan join the four great clans when the Xuanhuan clan was removed from the list of profounder clans? The main reason was that the Nangong clan did not care about their reputation. If the Nangong family wanted to, there was no such thing as the Xuanhuan clan or the Yuchi clan among the four great profounder clans. Looking at the Killing God mercenary group, that was the third-ranked mercenary group in the mercenary guild. Usually, even if he spent a lot of money, he might not be able to hire the Killing God mercenary group. Today, the Killing God mercenary group had offered to run errands for Yiqing Luo. Star. Chapter 2046. Couldn't be envious. Couldn't be envious. Couldn't be envious. However, everyone felt that this was a great honor. But the main character who enjoyed this honor didn't seem excited at all. That unparalleled face that could topple cities was calm and collected. Yiqing Luo looked at Nangong Firen calmly as her pink lips moved slightly, spitting out a few words. Remember what you said today. Wasn't this a little too insolent? But, why the hell did they feel that insolent was very handsome? Yiqing Luo was a lady. How could a lady be so handsome? Those female citizens had long thrown away their reservations as they screamed Yiqing Luo's name. The other men, their charm was not even comparable to a 15-year-old lady. Shouldn't they reflect on their actions? Yiqing Luo didn't pay attention to the thoughts of the surrounding citizens and the various powerhouses. Her gaze swept past the Death God mercenary group and finally landed on Nangong Firen. Her voice was still that calm and indifferent. There is gold under a man's knees. No matter how grateful you are, don't easily offer your knees. I have not done anything to make you kneel down to me. Her words made the Death God mercenary group and Nangong Firen stunned. Before they regained their senses, Yiqing Luo had already walked past them as she walked straight ahead. The few of them were stunned for several breaths. One by one they stood up from the ground. Right, Yiqing Luo was right. There was gold under a man's knees. No matter how grateful they were, they shouldn't offer their knees so casually. Yiqing Luo's target was Yi Fengru, who was sent flying. Yiqing Luo's palm strike had used 50% of her strength. Yi Fengru's internal organs were all heavily injured. He couldn't even support his body to stand up. Yi Fengru laid in a pool of blood with his limbs spread out. His robe was stained with blood. He looked like a demon bathed in blood. Yes, a demon. A head of white hair. A pair of red eyes seemed to have merged with the pool of blood on the ground. The crazed expression on Yi Fengru's face didn't diminish at all. When he saw Yiqing Luo, he laughed maniacally instead. Looking at Yiqing Luo, who was laughing hysterically. Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled the first time she met Yi Fengru. He wore a plain soft robe and smiled warmly at her. At that time, she brought Yi Fengru away from the ancestral hall but was stopped by second madam. It was Yi Fengru who appeared and gave Yi Fengru the best time for treatment. Although Yi Fengru had always been suspicious of Yi Fengru. However, she had never imagined that there would come a day when she and Yi Fengru would end up in such a situation. Yiqing Luo? Haha, if you can't take revenge for Qianxian, then kill me. Kill me and let me go to that world to reunite with Qianxian. His hoarse voice was roaring like a madman. Those once gentle eyes were now filled with hatred. Yiqing Luo half squatted down as her pink lips curled up into a smile that didn't look like a smile. What right do you have to avenge her? Yi Fengru's voice faltered and his expression became fierce. Because in this world only I truly love her. You love her, so you're accompanying her to become a demon? Your love is really superficial. Yiqing Luo sneered with extreme disdain. Yi Fengru was stunned. What do you mean? True love is not to accompany her to be bewitched, to bring calamity to the common people, but to rein in when she does something wrong. Star. Chapter 2047. Yiqing Luo said calmly, if you really love Xianxian, then when Xianxian is arrogant and conceited, and thinks that she's the only one, you should wake her up, and not let her repeatedly sink into her own delusions. Her tone was obviously very indifferent. Her voice was obviously very light. But unfortunately, it was like thunder, exploding in Yi Fengru's heart. He wanted to retort, to express that this was his way of loving Xianxian, accepting everything about Xianxian, loving Xianxian without any bottom line. But meeting Yiqing Luo's calm and indifferent eyes. Yi Fengru's words were all stuck in his throat. If it wasn't because of your indulgence, why would Xianxian feel aggrieved after losing to me? Unable to accept her own failure? In the end, for the so-called victory, she was willing to submit to the dark forces. When Yiqing Luo said this, she gave an extremely disdainful smile. In this place where martial arts are advocated, ability is the most important. Where the weak are prey to the strong, self-confidence and conceit will not allow one to survive. What can really support us to go further is our own ability. Xianxian's failure was because her ability was obviously not strong, but because of your flattery she was unable to recognize her true self, and finally ended up in such an outcome. When Yiqing Luo spoke, her tone was very light and spoke very slowly. From the start to the end, Yi Fengru had not opened his mouth to stop her. Yiqing Luo's lips curled, her eyes were cold as she fixed her gaze on Yi Fengru, word by word, extremely cruel. Yi Fengru, Xianxian's real death is because of you. You caused Xianxian's death. Yi Fengru's expression was a riot of colors. His face was filled with shock, unable to accept Yiqing Luo's words. but unfortunately he was unable to refute a single word. Tears overflowed from his eyes. Yiqing Luo slowly stood up. "I won't kill you, but you killed your father, forcefully snatched the position of Three Springs Sect's patriarch, and instigated generations of good people in Three Springs Sect to join the dark forces, almost becoming a traitor. You must atone for this matter." Yi Fengru laid on the ground, his eyes empty, his thoughts had already drifted somewhere. These words, Yiqing Luo hadn't said it to him before. Whether or not Yi Fengru would listen, she didn't care. Public opinion was a sharp weapon at any time. Even if she didn't care. But now, she was the representative of Devil Class, the representative of the World Mercenary Group. In the future she would become Dmo Xian's wife. She couldn't allow any dirt on her. There couldn't be anything that could be used to attack in the future. Yi Fengru was her second brother. Even if they were traitors, she had killed Yi Fengru. Those who knew the truth would think that she was putting her family before righteousness. It was a magnificent act. However, those who didn't know would only think that he was cold-blooded and merciless to the point that he would even lay his hands on his own kin. Yiqing Luo looked at Yi Fengru's dazed look and sighed softly. She took out a pill from her bosom. With a flick of his finger, the pill slid into Yi Fengru's mouth. His eyelashes trembled, but there was no reaction. Zhang San Xianxia brings second young master back to Three Springs Sect's dungeon. After the patriarch succession ceremony, then carry out the execution. Yiqing Luo waved her hand as though she was extremely exhausted. Zhang San and Zhang Si were the first to put down their weapons after listening to Yiqing Luo's words, and chose to be loyal to Three Springs Sect's initial choice, choosing Yiqing Luo as the young sect patriarch. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, the both of them ran over eagerly, one on the left and one on the right to support Yi Fengru. "Young sect patriarch, don't worry, we will definitely complete the task." Chapter 2048. Three Springs Sect's farce had finally come to an end. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers pressed against her aching glabella. She was just about to stretch her waist. Her slender waist was embraced by Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo didn't care that this was the Nirvana realm which had yet to be opened up. She lazily buried herself into Dmo Xian's arms. "Is there anything else that hasn't been settled?" Dmo Xian replied gently, "No, take a rest first, I will accompany you." Perhaps his voice was too gentle. Perhaps it was because his embrace was too comforting. Yiqing Luo actually really fell into a deep sleep in his arms. A golden road extended to the front, as far as the eye could see, as if there was no end. An awe-inspiring group of 30 people led the ropes that tied up thousands of people as they walked on the path created by the golden light. The historian who had been following behind the historian couldn't hide his thoughts. He quickly walked forward and whispered into the historian's ear, "Sir Historian, the Yiqing Luo, what is her background?" The historian's icy cold expression congealed as he frowned slightly. "Why do you ask?" "Because I can tell that Sir Historian should be siding with Yiqing Luo." This historian and the historian were like brothers, so he didn't hold back when he spoke. He took a look at the surroundings and suppressed his voice, using only the two of them to continue speaking. Those two people from the Earth realm sneaked into the lower realm, and that indeed violated the balance of the lower realm. It's indeed normal for us to capture him, but I still feel that if Yiqing Luo wasn't around, we should still give face to Godless Island. He paused. "Anyway, that man called Xuanhuan seems to be related to the God realm." The historian didn't mention the Overlord. Because before the Overlord appeared, the Overlord was already siding with Yiqing Luo. The appearance of the Overlord merely made the historian more determined to stand on Yiqing Luo's side. The historian had been unable to understand. When the historian was probing Yiqing Luo's true profound grade, he revealed an expression. That kind of shock, as if he couldn't believe it. A young lady from the lower realm. Who could make the historian reveal such an expression? And after that he directly sided with Yiqing Luo. The expression on the historian's face was somewhat complicated. After a moment of silence, he quickened his pace. Seeing this, the scribe immediately followed. Until the distance between them and the other court historians was 10 meters away. Administrator then suppressed his voice as he said word by word, "That Yiqing Luo is not simple. She is indeed only a sky-profound great cultivator." When the scribe heard this, his eyes were filled with astonishment. "But the power that we sensed in the heavenly law realm is definitely not only at the profound heavens realm. That is a power that can shake the entire realm of gods." He thought that when Lord Librarian had checked on Yiqing Luo's profound grade, he had intentionally concealed it for her. After all, when they sensed a strong fluctuation in the lower realm had already been destroyed. Even the master of the heavenly law was startled. That power was definitely not released by a profound practitioner of the sky profound realm. That's what surprises me. The scribe's expression was grave. When I was probing her profound rank, I sensed the profound heart jade in her body. That is, who are you? Suddenly, a wave of miserable cries sounded from behind them. The scribes lost their heads out of fear, becoming extremely chaotic. Chapter 2049. Those 20 over court officials had unknowingly fallen onto the ground. The ropes in their hands had already been cut into several pieces. The surviving members of the dark forces as well as Xuanhuan and the elderly were all released. The librarian's face sunk as he shouted, "Who are you? How dare you disturb the order of the court officials?" The surviving members of the dark forces who had been rescued looked at their bound hands in shock. He had never thought that he would be saved. After Xuanhuan was rescued, his face revealed a joyous expression. To be able to appear in front of the court officials at this moment, and under the supervision of 20 over court officials, to rescue over 1,000 of them. Other than his revered lord, there was no one else. He joyfully scanned the surroundings, but after looking for some time, he didn't manage to find the revered lord. Just as he was puzzled, Ghost Female's sinister voice rang in his mind, "Xuanhuan, the revered lord has orders, bring these people to Godless Island." Yes. Xuanhuan accepted the order, exercised the joints of her hands and immediately raised her voice, "Someone is here to save us. If you don't want to be locked up in the heavenly prison, then leave with me. I guarantee that I will give you a chance to turn around." Xuanhuan's voice was very cold, and the power to stir one's heart was not enough. But at this moment, those people from the dark forces, especially those few holy techniques in Pharaoh, were only thinking of surviving, to seek revenge from Wolf Holy Technique. The dark forces' main camp had already been leveled by the Imperial Palace. They had no chance to go to Nirvana Realm. If they had a chance to turn around, even if they had to lower their heads, they were willing. For a moment, no one rebutted Xuanhuan's words as they all rushed towards Xuanhuan's direction. When the 30 court officials saw this, they were about to stop them. However, there was a formless power in the air that blocked their path. The librarian's face sunk. Circulating his profound energy, he struck that barrier. The moment the profound energy came into contact with the profound energy, it instantly dissipated. They could only watch Xuanhuan and that Earth Realm elderly, bringing thousands of surviving members of the dark forces, disappearing before their eyes. Nirvana Realm. By the time Yiqing Luo woke up, the situation in West Continent was already under control and slowly stabilized. The West Wave Continent's losses in this battle were actually not too disastrous. Because of Yiqing Luo's relationship with Devil Class. The ones who suffered heavy losses were the Dark Forces and the small forces that joined the Dark Forces. Lung Fengying was indeed a sovereign king's talent. After the war ended, he took the opportunity to rope in the various forces that had participated in the war. In the name of the monarch, he set up a banquet to thank them for their help. All of them, regardless of their previous status. They were given various titles according to their performance on the battlefield. Although, because of the existence of the 4 great sections, the royal family of each continent was not considered the most noble family. However, he was still the king of the continent. They were second only to the 4 great sections. Being able to obtain a title, the various major forces were also very satisfied. Furthermore, it was also because of this battle. The relationship between the major forces had also become a step closer. Gradually, it evolved into a situation of mutual cooperation and mutual restraint. In this way, the Western continent became much more peaceful. When she saw the 2 forces' big bosses, who used to not interact with each other, now had their arms around each other's shoulders, coming to the old residence, saying to thank Yiqing Luo for her contribution to the Western continent. Yiqing Luo's mind, which had just regained consciousness, was still in a daze. Chapter 2050. Yiqing Luo went into a daze. A certain man who was standing beside her instantly emitted an extremely low pressure. Originally they were still smiling as they kept on praising Yiqing Luo and expressing their gratitude, but now they felt a chill down their spines. Their vision slowly shifted to the side of the bed, towards that man dressed in a purple robe, who looked like a banished immortal. They silently shut their mouths, succumbing to the overlord's might, timidly indicating that they were prepared to leave. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand to tug Dmo Xian's arm. But she had just fallen asleep and had no energy at all. This raised hand didn't even touch the white veil in front of her as it drooped down softly. When her hand softly fell back onto the bed, Jianshu's eyes widened. Dmo Xian's large palm wrapped around her little hand in time. Yiqing Luo held his large palm and gently squeezed it. Following that, she smiled and looked at the two people standing by the door through the veil, speaking softly, "Thank you both for your concern. I'm indebted to both of you for thinking highly of me. I've just woken up and my body is not feeling well. I hope both of you can forgive me." The two powerhouses' bosses nodded repeatedly. It's all right, we're the ones disturbing Miss Ye's rest." After the two leaders of the forces left, Yi Qingtang's eyes lit up. Dmo Xian's cold voice was heard from the room. "Mo Yuing, go tell Long Yunzhan and Tong Ziqing if anyone else were to come, both of them will receive them. Don't bother Lil Luo with these trivial matters." The two powerhouses' bosses at the door shuddered. This should be the first time they were told about trivial matters. The key point was that they didn't dare to get angry. Of course they didn't feel any displeasure. Instead, he secretly sighed in his heart, the overlord really dotes on his wife. Only a woman like Miss Yi who has descended from the mortal world can be a match for the overlord. Yes? Suddenly, a soft voice, but the tone was extremely stiff, rang behind them like a ghost. The two powerhouses were so scared that they almost screamed out loud. They looked towards the direction of the voice. Unknowingly, a pink loli had appeared behind him. She looked like a pink dumpling. She looked sweet and extremely adorable. However, he had an expressionless face, a pair of empty and soulless eyes, and a body that was as stiff as a corpse. Ghost? The two of them didn't care about their status as powerhouses as they screamed and ran away. Mo Yuing stared at their backs as she stiffly raised her hand and touched her face. She tilted her head and blinked her cute big eyes. "Am I really? Very scary?" She froze on the spot for a moment. She moved her head once again. "I'd better bring Di Zun's words to the class monitor and Sister Ziqing. Overlord might really make her very scary. The Overlord might really turn her into a very scary person." Inside the house, Yiqing Luo stared at Dmo Xian resentfully. Zhan was almost captured by those people from that domain on the battlefield and he's also seriously injured. How can we let him receive those powerhouses' bosses? Luo Yi Xian Yi Luo Xiao and said, "Ling Ling 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 Luo Ming God, Yi Ling Luo Ling Yi Di Yi Luo Chen Luo Ling Long and Ling Chen Luo, He Luo King and He at Ling Luo Chen Ling Ling Luo. Luo Yi R. Yi Ling Luo Yi." Chapter 2051. The smile on the corners of Yiqing Luo's lips gradually faded. After a long time she laughed lightly. "I know, even if I have the legendary overlord as my backing, it still cannot stop the expansion of humans' ambition." She held Dmo Xian's hand as she slowly leaned against the headboard. "I have a god relic, a sacred beast and an extremely powerful mirage beast. Moreover, I have a bunch of brave and good fighters, a team of brothers who will definitely grow to a terrifying height in future. Behind me, not only Heavenly Academy, there's Guiyu, there's Ghost Doctor, there's also the main hospital, plus an alchemist guild, Mu family and Shi family, as well as those powerhouses, and you." Her voice was very soft. So soft that if one didn't listen carefully, one wouldn't be able to hear what she was saying clearly. "All these are really the highest honor. Guess how many people, because of me, will have their ambitions stirred?" Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly. As though the person she was talking about wasn't herself. Dmo Xian sighed softly. The solemn expression on his face also dissipated a little. He understood his Lil Luo. Naturally he could tell that Lil Luo really didn't put it in her heart. His Lil Luo was really different from other ladies. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she looked at Dmo Xian's peerless face with a light smile. A good-looking man, no matter how one looked, one would never get tired of him. No matter how one looked, she wanted to press him down fiercely. 18 types of teasing displayed on him. Alas, it was probably because she had overdrawn the god relic's energy, causing her profound heart jade to be out of control. When she woke up, she only had the chance to stare at Dmo Xian with her eyes. The young lady's naked, undisguised gaze made Dmo Xian unable to restrain his laughter. His slender fingers touched Yiqing Luo's forehead as he poked hard. You've just woken up, what nonsense are you thinking about again?" "Want to sleep with you," Yiqing Luo replied without any hesitation. Her eyes sparkled as she blinked, not concealing the thought of sleeping with Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian's smile grew wider. Which lady would talk about sleeping with him? Especially the meaning of this sleep, it was especially broad and profound. You can think about it after your body recovers. DMO Xian's hand slid to her cheek as he pinched it harshly. I haven't even settled the score with you. How dare you not listen to me and forcefully use the power of the god relic? Do you really think that you're an iron wall? Won't I be devoured by the divine artifact? Yiqing Luo cried out in pain as her eyes filled with tears, looking at DMO Xian pitifully. Activate your ultimate skill. The ultimate move of acting cute. DMO Xian took the bait and released her face. He stretched out his long arm and pulled her into his embrace. He said in a bad mood, "You're always messing around. You clearly know that your profound heart jade is very likely to cause a backlash if you're not careful. How dare you joke around with your own life? Can't I say a few words to you?" It was an emergency, I couldn't do anything. Yiqing Luo put on a pitiful expression and continued to use her ultimate move. Isn't Feng Ling hooked now? Wait till I get the tranquil bead, then I won't be afraid anymore. DMO Xian didn't look at her as he hardened his voice. Even if you get the tranquil pearl, you're not allowed to mess around like today. Otherwise. He suppressed his voice, revealing a bit of magnetism. I'll make it so that you won't be able to get off the bed and mess around outside. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red as she shrunk her body into the quilt, but her mouth refused to show weakness. All right, I want to see whether it's you who can't get off the bed or me who can't get off the bed. Star. Chapter 2052. DMO Xian's eyes dimmed. His Adam's apple moved. Suddenly he leaned forward and pressed on top of Yiqing Luo. A head full of black hair cascaded down. The soft hair brushed past Yiqing Luo's face. The feeling it brought was like a feather, teasing her bit by bit. Yiqing Luo's heart skipped a few beats. Her eyes stared unblinkingly at DMO Xian's handsome face, which was just inches away from her. On purpose. His magnetic hoarse voice was mellow like fine wine, exuding an intoxicating charm. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red, her eyelashes fluttered, not saying a word. Yes, she was teasing him on purpose. Deliberately when DMO Xian could only look but not eat. Using words to provoke him. Who asked him to release such a strong masculine hormone every time? After he seduced her and made her fall head over heels for him, he wouldn't let her have it. Now, it was time to let him have a taste of the feeling of only looking but not eating. DMO Xian's thin lips curled upwards. That devilish arc added a bit of demonic charm to him. His peach blossom eyes seemed to carry thousands of charming lights. Like a poppy, constantly tempting Yiqing Luo's vision. He obviously saw through Yiqing Luo's thoughts. But on purpose. Teasing Yiqing Luo with even more strength. It was just a smile. But it had already made Yiqing Luo throw away her armor, her heart thumping wildly. You tormenting little demoness. You're the one who is doing it on purpose. Yiqing Luo stuffed her head back into the blanket as she curled up and cried out loudly, "Ow ow ow, no energy, you're still trying to seduce me, must you force me to attack my heart with lust?" DMO Xian was taken aback by such an earth-shattering remark. After a while, he shook his head helplessly, "Only a shocking woman like you dares to say such words so straightforwardly." Yiqing Luo snorted and moved towards the bedside. "You're my man, I want you, desire you, isn't this a matter of course? Since you want it, why can't you say it?" She moved a little. Her body bumped into DMO Xian's arms on both sides of her. Yiqing Luo could only give up on escaping as she wrapped herself in the blanket again. "If there comes a day when I don't want you or don't crave for you anymore, I reckon you will start to reflect on whether you're not handsome enough to attract me anymore." It was as if he was imagining that scene. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing. She was just saying it casually. DMO Xian took it seriously. His expression sunk as his 5 fingers suddenly clasped Yiqing Luo's lower jaw tightly. A pair of black obsidian, dazzling peach blossom eyes stared unblinkingly at the girl beneath him. "How dare you?" His tone was tense as he stared at her. If you don't want me, I'll. It was rare to see such a lofty, noble and elegant man behaving like a child. Yiqing Luo also harbored some thoughts of teasing. She deliberately raised her eyebrows and snorted, "What about you? Do you want to kill me?" He tightened his grip on her chin. However, he controlled himself well and did not hurt her. Suddenly he leaned forward. His scorching hot body was tightly pressed against hers. His head drooped onto her shoulder. The man's low husky magnetic voice drifted into her ear, "Otherwise I'll trap you on the bed, making you never get tired of my body." You. Yiqing Luo's face flushed red again. Damn it. He's playing this trick again. She would become so desperate to sleep with DMO Xian. She must have been led astray by DMO Xian. Bam. The tightly shut door was suddenly pushed open and a few figures rushed into the room in a hurry. Star. You. Kitty Lee bit her lips as her cat eyes flickered with rage. Zoemo laughed heartily. Be good, be good. Don't be jealous, little wild cat. I will only flaunt my affection with you. Kitty Lee glared at him. Kitty wants to reject you. Zoemo held Kitty Lee in one hand and touched his extremely devilish face with the other. I'm so handsome, elegant, and elegant. I'm a handsome man with both beauty and talent. How am I ugly? It's ugly everywhere. This pair of sweet and childish lovers left the room just like that. It was these two people who broke the awkward atmosphere in the room. Ghost Doctor's expression was still extremely ugly. He stood by the bedside as his eyes were filled with disapproval. He stared at Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo. He looked as though he couldn't wait to strangle the both of them. Master Ghost Doctor. Yiqing Luo's soft voice was filled with a coquettish tone. You've misunderstood. Xian and I are not like what you think. Star. Her expression grew increasingly unsightly. Lifting her charming eyes, she stared at Dmo Xian coldly without blinking, and said word by word, You shut up. Dmo Xian's smile froze as his thin lips moved, but when he met with Yiqing Luo's serious expression, he still stopped his voice. Master Ghost Doctor, please speak. Yiqing Luo slowly shifted her gaze towards Ghost Doctor. She was very clear that if Dmo Xian were to say it, there was a possibility that he would bluff her away. The Master Ghost Doctor never lied. And he disdained to lie. Ghost Doctor took a look at Dmo Xian before he opened his mouth. I've already said this the last time, that battle with King of Darkness had seriously damaged your control over your profound heart jade. If you're not careful, you will suffer the backlash from the profound heart jade. When I reach the mystic rank, will I be able to transform my body and leave my mortal body? Cultivation was a way to transform the human body. It was just like when she used the marrow cleansing pill to reconstruct her meridians. After cultivating, his body, which had been tortured for the past 15 years, was completely healed and became extremely sturdy. Moreover, after cultivating to the sky profound realm, one would be able to slow down their aging process and even retain their youth forever. It could be seen that the profound rank could affect a person's body. Otherwise, in the future, when her profound rank once again broke through to the sky profound realm, wouldn't her body still be unable to withstand the burden of the sky profound realm and above? Dmo Xian's eyes met with hers. His shimmering peach blossom eyes seemed to contain a pool of spring water. Sky profound is the lower realm's highest profound rank. Dmo Xian slowly explained, have you noticed that when the cultivators release their profound qi, there will be a difference in color, which is their profound rank? Star. Xiao Jin nodded solemnly. Thank you, Lord Ghost Doctor. The Ghost Doctor gave him a few reminders. Then she took the antidote and went to the medicine-making room that God Pirate had specially built. Xiao Jin took the prescription and brewed the medicine with extreme precision. After brewing the medicine, Xiao Jin carried the medicinal soup and walked to the bedside. When Yan Xiaoyi saw Xiao Jin approaching, her face revealed a joyful expression. But when she saw the medicinal soup in Xiao Jin's hands, her entire face turned bitter. He couldn't help but complain. The medicinal soup that the Ghost Doctor made wasn't just ordinarily disgusting, it wasn't just ordinarily bitter. Previously at the General Hospital, she was forced to eat 2 bowls a day. It was even more disgusting than eating shit. Yan Xiaoyi covered her head and hid under the blanket. She said, I won't drink it even if you beat me to death. Xiao Jin also knew that the taste of this medicinal soup was really hard to swallow. But for the sake of Yan Xiaoyi's body, Yan Xiaoyi must finish this bowl of medicine. Especially in the afternoon, when he heard from Dao Yegan that the poison in Yan Xiaoyi's body would cause Yan Xiaoyi to become weaker and weaker, and finally turn into a puddle of corpse water. His heart couldn't help but twitch faintly in pain. Xiaoyi, be good, finish this bowl of medicine first. After you finish, you can do whatever you want. Xiao Jin coaxed her in a warm voice. Not drinking. Yan Xiaoyi covered herself under the blanket as she shook her head furiously. Making me drink it every day, my entire body is bitter now. Star. Chapter 2058. Xiao Jin placed the medicine aside. His eyes were filled with helplessness as he looked at Yan Xiaoyi, who was covered in the blanket, looking like a child. He seemed to have understood. Why was Qing Luo so unbridled in front of them? But in front of an overlord, she would show off her womanly demeanor. Was it because A woman would reveal her true nature in front of the man she loved? Yan Shaoyi was the same. Which meant that he, Xiao Jin, was the man whom Yan Shaoyi had acknowledged, the man she loved. This knowledge made the smile on Xiao Jin's face deepen by several notches. What are you smiling at? Yan Shaoyi lifted a corner of the blanket as she secretly peeked at Xiao Jin. She discovered that Xiao Jin was staring at her with a rippling smile. Yan Shaoyi only felt that Xiao Jin was mocking her for being afraid of the bitter taste. Immediately, her cheeks flushed red as she popped out her little head and stared at him. Slut Jin. You're not allowed to smile. Xiao Jin's smile became even more joyful. That unprepossessing face made that pair of obsidian eyes shine brightly. Even if he wasn't handsome. But this smile made Yan Shaoyi's cheeks turn even redder. This was no longer the redness of embarrassment, but the redness of shyness. Yan Shaoyi thought that this was probably the ancient saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. In her eyes. No matter what expression Xiao Jin had, what action, what look. His words could make her heart beat faster. She actually loved Xiao Jin so much? Shaoyi, I have a way to reduce the bitter taste, do you want to try? Xiao Jin's eyes were burning as he stared at Yan Shaoyi's red face. Yan Shaoyi pouted as she snorted, candied fruit? I've already used this method and it can't cover up the bitter taste. Xiao Jin's thin lips curled upwards as he smiled like a sly fox. When have I ever lied to you? Be good, drink the medicine and I'll tell you, all right? His voice was very gentle. His coaxing tone made Yan Shaoyi's heart warm up. Yan Shaoyi pursed her lips. She knew clearly that she had to drink this medicine. If they continued on like this, when the medicine turned cold, it would probably be even more bitter. She had no choice but to bite the bullet and drink the entire bowl of medicinal soup. The bitter taste filled her entire mouth. A nauseous feeling surged in his chest. Yan Shaoyi's pale face instantly turned into an emaciated look. Her brows were tightly knitted together, and her facial features were twisted into a ball due to the bitterness in her heart. Slut Jin. I'm warning you, if your method doesn't work, I'll definitely... Yan Shaoyi was irritated by the bitter taste. Before he could finish, her body, along with the bedding, was suddenly lifted up. She had already fallen into Xiao Jin's embrace. Before he could react, Yan Shaoyi's jaw is pinched by the wrapping fingers. A kiss landed on her lips. Chapter 2060. She admitted defeat. Drink. Yiqing Luo had a look of facing death calmly as she raised her head and drank the greasy tonic into her mouth. She didn't even have the thought of tasting it as she directly swallowed it. This thing, she drank it once or twice. It was delicious. But for 3 consecutive days she drank 3 bowls a day. No matter who it was, they would be sick of it. But that treacherous scoundrel man always had 100 ways to force her to drink those tonics. Dmo Shen's eyes were calm as his peach blossom eyes were filled with a faint warm smile. Looking at the young lady who braced herself to face death calmly, he smiled helplessly as he doted on her. It looked like this young lass was still very resistant towards pregnancy. But it was true. This young lass was only 15 years old. She still had her own ambitions and future to pursue. It was indeed too early to talk about children. After drinking the tonic, Yiqing Luo generously placed the bowl in Dmo Shen's hands. It's settled. Now, I'm going out to have fun. Dmo Shen looked at Yiqing Luo's face, which had regained its color as his charming eyes became radiant. He didn't stop her like yesterday as he nodded slightly. Emin, but you have to promise me not to be willful again. You're not coming with me? Yiqing Luo frowned. She had finally managed to stick together with Dmo Shen for the past few days and he was leaving again? I know you have a lot of small matters to settle, and these matters, you have enough ability to settle them. Dmo Shen pinched her face. The 30% profound energy which was depleted for you has already recovered. You don't need to worry about me. Mentioning that 30% profound energy, Yiqing Luo instantly felt guilty. She lowered her eyes as she pursed her lips. I'm sorry. If it wasn't for her willfulness, Dmo Shen wouldn't have depleted 30% profound energy. If it wasn't for her persuasion, Dmo Shen might have already reorganized the Imperial Palace when he returned. Here we go again. Dmo Shen raised his finger and tapped her forehead lightly. The Imperial Palace isn't as important as you. Even if I didn't deplete 30% profound energy, even if you didn't ask me to stay, I would choose to stay by your side and take care of you personally during these 3 days when you were immobile. This man. He was really able to accurately guess what she was thinking at every single moment. Silly Luo heir, don't let your imagination run wild. Dmo Shen rubbed her head. I promised you I will give you what you want to grow. These few days perform well for me, I'll be right back. Yiqing Luo raised her head and met with that pair of tender peach blossom eyes. The thick scent of his hormones filled her nostrils. Resolute and cold. Made her feel good. The contours of his face were extremely gentle. His eyes were filled with a smile and his thin lips were slightly raised. Charming and seductive. Whenever she looked at him, Yiqing Luo had a feeling that her heart was gripped tightly, as though she had lost her soul in an instant. She suppressed the restlessness in her heart as her cheeks blushed. Lowering her eyes, she obediently responded, "N." The young girl's charming appearance made the smile on his lips deepen. Satisfied, he wrapped his arms around the girl's delicate body, bent down and kissed her pink lips. Their lips touched, carrying a strong masculine scent. Yiqing Luo had yet to react. A cool breeze brushed past his cheeks. In front of him there was no longer a man's figure. All that was left was his unique sandalwood scent as it diffused in the room. Yiqing Luo froze on the spot, as her slender fingers caressed her pink lips. The corners of her lips still had remnants of his warmth. She smiled lightly, her eyes filled with satisfaction. This man was afraid that she couldn't control herself, so he intentionally slipped away so quickly. Star. Chapter 2061. Yiqing Luo tidied herself up once again. Facing the bronze mirror, she looked left and right to ascertain that the redness on her face had subsided before she walked out of the room. It was already winter time and it was drizzling outside. The cool breeze brushed against her face and Yiqing Luo felt refreshed. Mo Ying, who was guarding outside the door, tilted her head and said flatly, "Qing Luo, the weather is cold, you should wear a cape." "No problem." Yiqing Luo smiled as she caressed Mo Ying's head. "Has Xiao Yi's poison been neutralized?" Mo Ying raised her hand and slowly smoothed her messy hair as she replied blankly, "And neutralized." Looked like the antidote given by Dao Yigan was real. At least he was sensible. Otherwise, she would really bring Mo Shen along and make a trip to Godless Island. "Are you going to see Xiao Yi?" After she neutralized the poison, she was brought out by Jin Zi, saying that she wanted to enjoy some alone time. Mo Ying continued. To alone time? From her point of view, those two were afraid that she would bring Mo Shen along to show off their affection? Yiqing Luo smiled as she shook her head, then let them enjoy their time. "I'll make a trip back to Three Springs Sect first. After all, Three Springs Sect should have a leader now." Qing Luo is going to hold the sect leader succession ceremony? Mo Ying was puzzled. If Qing Luo becomes Three Springs sect leader, then what about the world group, devil class? Yiqing Luo gave a mysterious smile. "Don't worry, no matter what I become, I will always be a member of the world group and devil class." Looking at Mo Ying's lowly face, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but stretched out her hand and caressed it. "Good Shadow, later bring the brothers to Three Springs Sect to watch the show." Leaving this sentence, Yiqing Luo stepped on the breeze and disappeared from the old residence. Three Springs Sect. The Three Springs Sect, which used to be bustling with noise and excitement, was now extremely quiet. When Yiqing Luo stepped into Three Springs Sect, she didn't see anyone coming forward to welcome her. Yiqing Luo faintly frowned as she looked at the few of them walking around dispiritedly. She grabbed a young maid and asked, "What happened?" The young maid had a shock. Turning her head to look at Yiqing Luo's face, the young maid's eyes widened as she screamed, "It's young sect master." It was the young sect master. Young sect master was back. Young sect master is back. That shrill voice made Yiqing Luo's eardrums hurt. She picked her ears and stared at the maid. She looked so petite, but her explosive power was actually so strong. Not waiting for the echo in Yiqing Luo's ears to dissipate. Suddenly, circles of people swarmed in from all directions. It was none other than Zhang San and Zhang Si from the Three Springs Sect. In the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn. Chapter 2063. In the end, they couldn't compare to those children. Even if young sect master chose the world group and abandoned Three Springs Sect, that was a matter of course. After seeing that scene, Zhang San and Zhang Si didn't have the face to see Yiqing Luo. He returned to the Three Springs Sect with his tail between his legs. Then he thought about it. The more he thought about it, the more flustered he became. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the young sect lord would never return to Three Springs Sect. The Three Springs Sect no longer had a master. Could it be? Was the Three Springs Sect going to fall from the altar? With this thought in mind, everyone in the Three Springs Sect spent the next 3 days in trepidation. It was until the 4th day when Yiqing Luo arrived. Yiqing Luo stood in the middle, looking at her surroundings, surrounding her in a tight encirclement. She didn't know what everyone was thinking. She only knew that these people from the Three Springs sect wanted to serve the Three Springs sect from the bottom of their hearts. Her long and narrow eyes curved, and the corners of her mouth curled into a faint smile. She stretched out her hand to help Xianxia and Xianxia up. What nonsense are you all thinking about? When did I say that I would give up Three Springs sect? But if young sect master inherits Three Springs sect, the world group, and those children, Xianxia and Xianxia reminded. The leader of the Three Springs sect was not as relaxed as he looked. Yiqing Luo is still a student. He was the vice group leader of the world group. If he inherited the Three Springs sect, most of her time was spent on the Three Springs sect. As for the world group, they probably wouldn't be able to care about them anymore. Yiqing Luo smiled. Who says you can't balance both? She smiled craftily, her eyes shining with a teasing light. All right, you can start preparing for the sect master succession ceremony now. While you're at it, announce it to the West Continent and invite some people over to liven things up. Pausing for a moment, she considered the time and said, tomorrow then. Tomorrow? Zhang San was startled. Isn't that too much of a rush? No. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. West Continent side should be fine. As for the other continents, we'll just send out a notice to tell them that Three Springs sect has changed hands. Zhang San and Zhang Si. Isn't this a little too casual? However, Yiqing Luo didn't give them any chance to stop her. She had already turned around and walked towards the inner courtyard of the Three Springs sect. The crowd immediately followed. Zhang San and Zhang Si still wanted to persuade him. After all, the enthronement ceremony was a big event for the Three Springs sect. How could he be so careless? However, they did not have the chance to speak again. In front of him, a group of women rushed over. Chapter 2064. However, to Yiqing Luo that murderous intent was nothing. Yiqing Luo squinted her long and narrow eyes as her lips curled into a cold arc. Isn't this second concubine? Why are you behaving like a crazy woman? After that, her charming eyes turned cold, and she shot her gaze towards the old maids behind the woman. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to speak, Zhang San was the first to berate them. How did you serve second concubine? How can you behave so crazily? If others see this as a joke, I will hold you responsible. The old maids shivered, except for the two old maids who were holding Madame Yuchi. The other old maids all knelt down. Third protector, please spare our lives. It's second concubine who slipped out when we weren't paying attention. The minute she heard young sect master's name, she went crazy. We old servants couldn't catch up to her at all. All right, second concubine got so agitated upon hearing my name. That also means that she was thinking of me all the time, thinking that she couldn't wait to see me, so it's not these old maids' fault. Yiqing Luo waved her hand, indicating those old maids to get up. The old maids got up gratefully. Madame Yuchi's facial features were sinister. That unwashed face looked extremely haggard, like a 50 to 60-year-old woman. Yiqing Luo. Return my daughter. Return my daughter. Yiqing Luo, you traitor, you still have delusions of obtaining Three Springs sect. Old Madame will absolutely not agree. Absolutely. Madame Yuchi's howling voice had completely turned hoarse. Her eyes were like copper bells, filled with malice. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, smiling extremely calmly. Second concubine, looks like you've really gone crazy. Your daughter? Isn't she long dead? She pushed aside Zhang San and Zhang Si who were blocking in front of her, as she slowly walked towards Madame Yuchi. Her leisurely footwork. Every step she took. Like a huge stone, it was thrown into Madame Yuchi's heart. Madame Yuchi's twisted face gradually revealed a terrified expression. Yiqing Luo stood firm. She was just one step away from Madame Yuchi. She smiled, her eyes were burning as she gazed at Madame Yuchi, saying word by word, Your long ago when your eldest daughter whom you are most proud of, hooked up with the Dark Force Wolf Saint technique. In order to survive, she used your as a shield. Do you know? Your was blown to pieces, not even dregs were left. That was blasted into pieces, not even ashes were left. Madame Yuchi's face turned pale bit by bit. She shook her head crazily as tears flowed down from her. Ling, it was you. It was you who killed my heir. It Ling. Ling. Ling Luan us Ling. She Ling. Yiqing Luo laughed out loud and continued cruelly. Yes, Yiqing Ling was chased out of Three Springs sect and was brought to the Dark Forces by Yiqing Jian. Using the Dark Forces sorcery, she gave Yiqing Ling the ability to control thousands of beasts. But not long ago Yi Qingqian caught my brother trying to trap me in the enchantment. I saw with my own eyes, that eldest daughter of yours, caught Yi Qingling in front of me. Then in front of me she exploded bit by bit, blood and flesh splattered. Ah, ah. In a frenzy, Madame Yuchi broke free from the two old maids' restraint. She hugged her head, screaming crazily. As she screamed she sat on the ground, totally unable to accept the contents of Yi Qingluo's words. In fact, Madame Yuchi was very clear that Yi Qingluo's words were all true. Chapter 2065. She was absolutely not surprised that Yi Qingqian would kill Yi Qingling in order to survive. Now hearing Yi Qingluo say it out personally, Madame Yuchi was still unable to accept it. She would rather believe that Yi Qingling had died in Yi Qingluo's hands than to believe that her own daughter had died in the hands of the eldest daughter whom she was most proud of. Looking at Madame Yuchi who was on the verge of breaking down, Yi Qingluo didn't stop provoking her as her lips curled up slightly as she continued to smile. That's right, I forgot to tell you something. That eldest daughter whom you are so proud of. I'm afraid there's no way for her to save you. The madly howling woman immediately stopped. She stared at Yi Qingluo with bloodshot eyes filled with hatred and despair which made one's heart turn cold. You slut! What have you done to Qian? What have you done to Qian? Yi Qingluo bent over as she looked down at Madame Yuchi as she gave an extremely cruel smile. Do you know, the reason why Wolf Sacred Dharma dotes on Yi Qingqian is because of that face of hers which is similar to Wolf Sacred Dharma's beloved woman. As for me, I didn't take Yi Qingqian's life. After all, we are sisters and if I were to kill her, wouldn't it seem that I'm too cold-blooded? So, I upheld my responsibility as a younger sister and conveniently helped my pitiful eldest sister to test how much true feelings Wolf Sacred Dharma has for her. Madame Yuchi's eyes widened as she understood the meaning in Yi Qingluo's words. Her facial features turned sinister once again as it was extremely terrifying. Yi Qingluo, you ruined Qian'er's face? Did you ruin Qian'er's face? Yi Qingluo, you'll die a horrible death, you'll die a horrible death. Madame Yuchi wanted to pounce forward. Yi Qingluo retreated a few steps. The old maids held Madame Yuchi down at the right time. It was obvious that the relationship between young matriarch and Madame Yuchi who had become a prisoner was like fire and water. These old maids held onto Madame Yuchi's shoulders as they totally didn't give her any face. Madame Yuchi screamed miserably in pain as she kept on shouting and cursing. Yi Qingluo looked at the hysterical Madame Yuchi as her lips curled into a ridiculing arc. She straightened her body and turned around to walk back to Zhang San and Zhang Xi's side. It's all thanks to Second Yin Yang for reminding me that old ancestor cannot be absent from the sect head succession ceremony. Looks like I still have to make a trip to old ancestor's place. Madame Yuchi's eyes were filled with madness when she heard that. Sect master succession ceremony? Yi Qingluo, don't even think about it. How could the elder ancestor let you inherit the position of the Three Springs sect's lord? You don't have the right to inherit it. I'm not qualified. Yi Qingluo raised her brows and laughed wantonly. Don't tell me you think that Yi Qingqian who joined the Dark Forces, betrayed the Three Springs sect, betrayed the West Continent and even the entire Nirvana realm is qualified. You. Madame Yuchi was so infuriated that her entire body was trembling. She flopped around in a futile attempt to charge towards Yi Qingluo. Everyone in Three Springs sect is qualified except you. And he wants to invite the ancestor to attend the succession ceremony? Dream on. This time the old maids held her tightly. No matter how Madame Yuchi struggled, she couldn't break free from the old maid's restraint. The more she struggled, the more Madame Yuchi's expression became distorted and malevolent. Yi Qingluo's slender brows creased slightly. Why did Madame Yuchi keep repeating that she didn't have the right to inherit the sect head? Could it be? What did Madame Yuchi know? This thought made Yi Qingluo's charming eyes shivered. She stretched out her hand and grabbed Madame Yuchi's collar as she suppressed her voice and questioned her in an extremely cold tone. Madame Yuchi, on what basis do you say that I don't have the right to inherit the sect head? Star. Chapter 2066. Angry? Madame Yuchi's scarlet eyes revealed a complacent smile to be able to cause Yi Qingluo's emotions to fluctuate. Do you want to know why you don't have the right? Ah. Her face was filled with maniacal laughter. Do you know why you're obviously the Yi family's daughter, but for the past 15 years, you've been living worse than a servant? Do you want to know the real cause of your mother's death? Ah. Beg me and I'll tell you. Every sentence Madame Yuchi said, Yi Qingluo's expression turned gloomier, especially when she mentioned her mother. Yiqing Luo's eyes instantly turned extremely deep and gloomy, her pair of charming eyes as though it was covered with frost. Her 5 fingers abruptly moved upwards, clasping Madame Yuchi's neck. Her slender fingers were like jade, so fair that it seemed to be emitting a thick chill. "Tell me clearly what you know." Yiqing Luo's eyes were cold as she spat out her words coldly. Madame Yuchi laughed maniacally. Even though the strength on her neck was tightening, she didn't have any fear. Kill me, kill me. If you kill me, you'll never know those secrets from back then." Yiqing Luo gave Madame Yuchi a slap. "You want to die? I forgot to tell you, my master is the ghost doctor. I have 100 ways to make you wish for death. Not talking, right? I have ways to make you talk." She clasped Madame Yuchi's neck, turning her head to look at Zhang San and Zhang Si. "Bring Madame Yuchi to the dungeon, use whatever punishment you want, just leave her with one breath." Yiqing Luo said as she looked towards Madame Yuchi. Her face was no longer as frosty as before. On the contrary, her eyes curved into a smile. Her long and narrow eyes flashed with a piercingly cold glint. She took out a pill from the profound phoenix ring, smiling as she said, "Second madam, don't worry, I will absolutely not let you die so easily. Take this pill, I guarantee. As long as you can still breathe, even if your 4 limbs are broken and your internal organs are ruptured, you will absolutely be able to hang on to your last breath, maintaining your best conscious state." As she was smiling, she sent the pill into Madame Yuchi's mouth. "Yiqing Luo. How dare you? You dare." Hearing the effects of this medicinal pill, Madame Yuchi struggled, not willing to eat that medicinal pill. This kind of medicinal pill, if it was really eaten, it was an experience worse than death. "Yiqing Luo, you heartless slut. Do you want to know? Good. I'm telling you. Pa." Before Madame Yuchi finished her words, suddenly, a gust of wind from her palm struck Madame Yuchi's face. Madame Yuchi's body was like a kite with a broken string, flying out from Yiqing Luo's palm as she flew backwards. A blood-curdling scream rang out. Madame Yuchi landed heavily on the fake mountain and spat out a large mouthful of blood. Yiqing Luo didn't bother to look at Madame Yuchi, but turned her gaze towards the direction where the palm wind came from. In front of him was a frail old man with a walking stick. He was supported by a woman who looked to be in her 30s as he walked over shakily. "Ancestor." Zhang San, Zhang Si and the rest of the guards, when they saw the old man, hurriedly cupped their fists in respect. Old Madame's face was gloomy as she couldn't conceal her anger from head to toe. Chapter 2067. Madame Yuchi clutched her chest as she opened her mouth and stared fiercely at old Madame. The minute she opened her mouth, she spat out a large mouthful of blood with a wah sound. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as her lips curled into a smile as she smiled lightly. "So it's old Madame." Qing Luo was still exclaiming in shock earlier on who released such a powerful energy. "You're indeed old Madame. Only old Madame is able to release such a powerful, vast and majestic energy." A series of bootlicking was done without her face turning red or her heart skipping a beat. Old Madame's expression turned gloomier and gloomier. She looked coldly at Yiqing Luo, as the raging storm in her eyes was extremely clear to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo continued smiling, "I'm just about to look for old Madame to discuss about the patriarch's succession ceremony. I already know about this matter." Old Madame replied in a hoarse voice as her tone was icy cold. Yiqing Luo nodded her head smilingly. "So old Madame will be present for tomorrow's succession ceremony, right?" "Yes, the succession of patriarch is such a huge matter. As the only elder in Three Springs sect, I will naturally be present." Old Madame said every word with extreme force. A pair of malicious eyes flashed with a sharp cold glint. Yiqing Luo's smile grew even more radiant as she looked at Madame Yuchi, who was sprawled on the ground, not knowing if she was dead or alive. Earlier second aunt said that old Madame will definitely not take part in the succession ceremony, and even said that I'm not qualified to become Three Springs sect's patriarch. She walked towards old Madame as she revealed an aggrieved expression. "Old Madame, I'm the young patriarch appointed by father. Am I really not qualified to become the patriarch?" Old Madame's 5 fingers, which were holding onto the walking stick, suddenly tightened. The back of her shriveled and frail hand started to show green veins because of her tightened strength. Her gaze became increasingly malicious, like a sharp blade, as though it could pierce through one's heart anytime. Yiqing Luo didn't ask further as she maintained her aggrieved expression, waiting for old Madame's reply. From old Madame's expression, Yiqing Luo could tell. About 80% of what Madame Yuchi said was true. What she guessed in her heart was not far from the truth. After a while, the elder ancestor raised his chin slightly and said word by word, "You are the young master of the Three Springs sect, which means that you are the future master of the Three Springs sect. If you don't have the qualifications, who does?" With old grandmadame's words, I'm much more assured. Yiqing Luo grinned as she smiled like a blossoming flower. Her pair of charming eyes curved into crescents as she smiled, looking extremely alluring. Old ancestor only felt that the bright smile was extremely eye-piercing. Chapter 2068. Third Madam, what's the matter? Yiqing Luo asked despite knowing the answer. Madame Biming bit her lower lip as she clenched her handkerchief tightly and suddenly knelt down towards Yiqing Luo. I know that I shouldn't beg 7th Miss for this matter, but other than begging 7th Miss, there's no other way. Yiqing Luo leaned towards the right, avoiding Madame Biming's kowtow. Madame Biming stubbornly knelt on the ground as she raised her head and looked at Yiqing Luo sincerely. 7th Miss, I beg you to spare second young master, he's just lost his mind for a moment. Indeed, it was to plead for Yi Fengru. Madame Biming's petite body was trembling, but she still knelt upright. I know that second young master's sins are grave, killing his father to force the abdication, forcefully snatching the position of sect master, and even led Three Springs sect to join the dark forces, almost ruining Three Springs sect's illustrious name. But I'm second young master's birth mother. No matter what second young master's sins are, I can't bear to see him die because of this. So, I boldly beg 7th Miss to spare second young master's life. I'll do anything to repay your kindness. Madame Biming knew that Yi Fengru's sins were unpardonable. But as a mother, she still hoped that her son would be able to live on. Yiqing Luo's eyes drooped as she looked at the resolute Madame Biming and shook her head. Third Madam, in that great battle with the dark forces, the rebels will be dealt with by the new monarch. I have no right to interfere. As long as 7th Miss is willing to spare second young master, the monarch will definitely spare his life. Madame Biming's thoughts were exquisite, so how would she not understand that in order for Yi Fengru to live, Yiqing Luo had to nod her head. The new monarch was able to ascend the throne under such circumstances. Behind the scenes, it was definitely Yiqing Luo who recommended him. As long as Yiqing Luo opened her mouth, Lung Fengying would definitely give her face. Third Madam's deep feelings for your son indeed touched me. Yiqing Luo's emotions didn't fluctuate at all. She indifferently looked at Lady Biming. But, Third Yinyang, have you ever thought that because of Zi Qianshan's death, Yi Fengru has been so deeply provoked that he doesn't even recognize his own family? He's even willing to lay his hands on his brothers who have gone through life and death with him, and the woman who has loved him for so many years. If I let him go, as the main culprit behind Zi Qianshan's death, what should I do if he wants to kill me again? This? Lord Biming was startled. If I let him go once, what about the second, third, and fourth time? Third Yinyang, you are very smart and know how to analyze the pros and cons. I don't have that much energy to deal with his repeated assassination attempts. Yiqing Luo's words were very direct. If Third Mistress has not confirmed that Yi Fengru's consciousness has been awakened, I will not let him go. Lady Biming was startled again. Immediately, her eyes brightened, and she kowtowed to the ground with force and wild joy. Thank you, 7th young Mississippi. I will definitely try my best. If I really cannot wake up the second young master, I will definitely not pester 7th young Miss anymore. She had made the right bet. Although there were rumors in the outside world that the 7th Miss was cold and merciless, bloodthirsty and murderous. But she could tell. 7th young Miss's heart was actually very soft. As long as she was willing to put in the effort, she would be able to move 7th young Mississippi. 7th young Miss would definitely relent. Get up, old madam is tired. Go take care of old madam. You still have to work hard for tomorrow's grand ceremony. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. Lady Biming thanked her profusely before she returned to old madam's side. Old madam took a look at the delighted Lady Biming, and looked at Yiqing Luo with a complicated expression. But she didn't open her mouth. Chapter 2069. When the voices of the two people disappeared from his sight, Yiqing Luo looked at those old women again. Didn't you hear old madam's words? Second Yinyang has already gone mad. Take her back to the courtyard and take good care of her. Yes, young lord. The old women lowered their heads and accepted the order. Xianxia warned sternly, tomorrow is the clan head succession ceremony. Be careful not to let second Yinyang's gossips disturb the guests attending the ceremony. The old maids carried Madame Yuchi away with trepidation. Xianxia leaned over to Yiqing Luo's side, and after suppressing the words for a long time, he finally spoke out, "Young sect master, second young master he has already gone mad. How could you agree to third, madam?" They were at the scene of the battle. They had all seen with their own eyes that Yi Fengru had fallen into the demonic path because of a lady who had betrayed the Nirvana realm, and madly wanted to kill Yiqing Luo. But Yiqing Luo was actually willing to give Bei Ming clan a chance to awaken Yi Fengru. If Yi Fengru really got over that hurdle in his heart and dispelled the idea of becoming enemies with Yiqing Luo would definitely release him. As for Yi Fengru, who had killed his own father and forced the abdication of the Three Springs sect, he had even led the Three Springs sect to join the dark forces. The people of the Three Springs sect were filled with resentment. Yiqing Luo smiled faintly. "I don't put him in my eyes, he's just another trouble. Moreover, I've given him this chance. If he doesn't cherish it, I won't show any mercy." Recalling the way Yiqing Luo treated Madame Yuqi earlier, Zhang San and Zhang Si shivered. Cough cough. It seemed like their young sect master was someone who could be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. The Three Springs sect's succession ceremony was about to take place. In just a few hours, the news had spread like wildfire. The Three Springs sect, which had been quiet for many days, finally became lively. It was a grand and extravagant investigation. Those who sent invitations sent invitations. He was preparing for the program. There were all kinds of things. Although they were a little impatient, they were still prepared in an orderly manner. The matter of Three Springs sect's young matriarch Yiqing Luo saving the West Continent was spread widely by the commoners present. Hence, on such a festive day, the common people were also dressed in red and green, decorated with lanterns and ribbons. There was also the spontaneous festive gongs and drums of the people. All of them were praising Yiqing Luo for her huge contribution to the West Continent. On the day of the grand ceremony, the people rushed to the Three Springs sect manor early in the morning, surrounding it in 3 layers. The commoners raised the red flags in their hands, with Yiqing Luo's name written on it. It was so exaggerated that Yiqing Luo was shocked. The Three Springs sect was decorated to look extremely rich and noble. The red carpet was laid out along the way, and flower petals were scattered all over the ground. All kinds of big shots entered the Three Springs sect one after another. All kinds of rare treasures were sent to the Three Springs sect. Before dawn, the Three Springs sect was already bustling with activity. Early in the morning, Yiqing Luo opened her eyes amidst this hubbub. She stretched her body. When the maid outside heard the noise, she immediately asked if he wanted to wash up. Yiqing Luo got up and washed up simply. Outside the door, a few maids carried a navy blue brocade robe, looking extremely dignified. On the brocade robe, there was a large Yi character embroidered. "This is the patriarch's robe that old madam ordered me to send over. I will help young matriarch change into it," the maid said respectfully. Yiqing Luo stared at that set of brocade robe, and could tell at one glance that it was specially made according to her figure. Apparently, this robe had been prepared a long time ago. Looking at the workmanship, it was definitely not something that could be completed in a day or two. Chapter 2070. The maids brought the brocade robe forward. Yiqing Luo hurriedly received that brocade robe. "I'll do it myself, all of you can leave now." The maids couldn't persuade Yiqing Luo and could only remind her on the details of how to wear the brocade robe before leaving. The place where the inheritance ceremony was held was in Three Springs sect's biggest garden. Under the meticulous decorations of several hundred maids, the garden was filled with flowers and it was extremely beautiful. In the middle of the garden, there was a high stage which could stand 300 people with a long table and a few armchairs. And right in front of the high stage was a sacrificial altar. A huge heavenly joss stick was burning with green smoke. By the side of the sacrificial altar, stood a white-robed old man who looked like an immortal, with his eyes closed as he rested, with an unfathomable attitude. Surrounding the high stage were rows of exquisite delicacies, desserts etc. long tables. Those were the seats to receive VIPs. Three Springs sect was the West Continent's competition. Three Springs sect's change of ownership to the West Continent was an extremely joyous matter. In the entire garden, there were at least 10 over famous and promising people from various powerhouses. Even those powerhouses who usually had enmity with each other when they came to Three Springs sect, they all laughed off their enmity, not creating any trouble in Three Springs sect. It was almost midnight, which was around 9 in the morning. Three Springs sect's garden was already filled with guests. Even the representatives from other continents who came later squeezed together with a group of people, wanting to join in on the liveliness. The bustling garden was bustling with noise. Suddenly they heard a notification: the monarch has arrived. Following that, they saw Lung Feng dressed in a bright yellow dragon robe as he slowly walked over. He only brought along a eunuch, who was holding an exquisite jade box in his hand. When the crowd saw that, they all stood up to welcome him. Greetings to the monarch. The people present here were basically existences that could shake the entire Western continent 3 times with a casual shake. There was no need for them to kneel down when they saw Lung Feng. Lung Feng waved his hand warmly. Everyone, please don't be so courteous. Today's main venue is Three Springs Sect, and I am only here as a friend to congratulate Qing Luo on inheriting Three Springs Sect. The crowd started to laugh softly. Lung Feng's words made everyone's hearts beat like drums. Anyone with a discerning eye knew. The reason why Lung Feng was able to become the new monarch was all because of Yi Qing Luo's blessings. If it wasn't for Yi Qing Luo, Lung Feng might still be dispirited in the Crown Prince Palace. Looking at how Lung Feng only brought along a father-in-law to attend Yi Qing Luo's succession ceremony, it could be seen that the relationship between the new sovereign and the future sovereign of the Three Springs sect was not ordinary. After all, a monarch is a monarch and a subject is a subject. A monarch is the son of heaven, so there is no need for him to lower himself and force himself to be friends with the 7th girl. On the high platform, an old voice broke the guesses of the crowd. Everyone's gaze immediately followed the sound. On the high platform, the luxuriously dressed old ancestor had a gloomy expression on his face, as though he was unattainable. Although old ancestor's words seemed to be elevating Lung Feng and belittling their Three Springs sect, saying that they were unable to climb up to the royal family. However, his words were too rude. Even if it was Lung Feng at this moment, his expression was also rather ugly. He coughed dryly and said in a gentle voice, "Ancestor, have you misunderstood something?" Chapter 2071. Old Grand Madame's unyielding attitude, no matter who it was, would be able to tell the deep meaning behind it. Lung Feng stopped the words he was about to say. The expression on his face was still gentle and calm. But beneath his eyes, there was an indistinct sharp glint. This old Grand Madame? What did she mean? Why, it seemed as though she wanted to draw a line between the royal family and Yi Qing Luo. Old Grand Madame's eyes are really sharp, to be able to see through the sovereign's true thoughts at one look. Suddenly, a sweet smiling voice was heard from the backyard of the garden. Yi Qing Luo strolled leisurely with her hands behind her back, as she slowly walked over from the backyard's small path. That leisurely look totally didn't show the solemnity and nervousness of her inheriting the position of Three Springs sect sovereign. Yi Qing Luo's dressing today was slightly more formal. She was still wearing a red long dress. But today she had put in quite a bit of effort on the long dress. Different from usual, it was so simple and elegant that there was no pattern at all. The red long dress which she wore today was adorned with silver scales, sparkling with a dazzling brilliance. Her long black hair was tied up simply and a simple cherry blossom jade hairpin was inserted diagonally. It looked extremely elegant and quick-witted. Standing on the stage, they instantly felt an extremely majestic aura being released from the young lady. Everyone's mind instantly surfaced 4 words. 9. Heavens. Xian. Female. You. Why aren't you wearing the sovereign's attire which I have prepared for you? Old Grand Madame saw Yi Qing Luo and suddenly slammed the table as she stood up, as her brows creased into a bundle. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as she gave an evil and flamboyant smile. I feel that wearing my own clothes is more comfortable. Presumptuous. Old Grand Madame's face was filled with anger. Usually you throw a tantrum and I can indulge you. But today is such a solemn day and you're still so presumptuous. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose. Facing the raging old Grand Madame, her lips curled slightly. When has old Grand Madame ever indulged me? 7th girl. Old Grand Madame seemed as though she had not expected Yi Qing Luo to embarrass her in front of so many people. Yi Qing Luo dug her ears. Old Grand Ancestor, I'm just beside you and I can hear you. There's no need to shout so loudly, leave your voice. Later on, you still need to express your feelings towards the new sovereign. The old ancestor was so angry that his entire body was trembling. The hand that was holding onto the walking stick also had green veins popping out. Lady Biming stood at the side and immediately took the old ancestor's arm. She said gently, Old ancestor, I know that you haven't been able to rest well for a few nights in order to prepare the sect leader's attire for Miss 7. After all, Miss 7 is only a 15-year-old child. How would she like such dark-colored clothes? Please don't bother with a child. Her voice was not loud, but it was not soft either. It explained the current situation in an appropriate manner. Ancestor, today is a big day for the Three Springs sect. Why don't you just smile? Don't look so serious. You're scaring the juniors, Biming advised warmly. The old ancestor's expression became more restrained. The hand that was holding onto the walking stick tightened. Following that, she raised her head and looked at Yiqing Luo as her gaze became gentler. Forget it, forget it. I'm old and don't understand the colors that you youngsters like. Since 7th girl likes to wear this attire, then wear this attire to inherit the sovereign's position. Saying that, she returned to her seat with Lady Biming's support. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to haggle with the old grand madam. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.